The coronavirus is, of course, causing a lot of concerns, a lot of conversation, and a lot of questions when it comes to our financial investments. Here to give us some information and help us navigate these tricky waters, Mr. Morgan Hill of Hill & Hill Financial. Thanks for joining us.
Jess, always a pleasure.
Of course, we want to talk with you. We always want to talk with an expert when it comes to what do we do in uncertain times?
Yeah. I think as we've been sharing actually some video feeds, and we're actually going to be doing some additional webinars over these next few weeks. First of all, we're healthy, we're open, but we are practicing keeping
social
our
distancing,
instead of a big bear hug. It's either an elbow bump or a peace sign, whatever the case may be. But one of the things we think is critical is perspective. As I was kind of looking through research, I'm a bit of a history nerd. April of 2009 to April of 2010 was the outbreak of the swine flu globally. And it was issued as a pandemic by the World Health Organization, I think about April 10th, 2009. And on March 9th, 2009 was the lowest point that was recorded of the Dow Jones during the beginning of the Great Recession. So to think that we're in the middle of starting the Great Recession, in the middle of a global pandemic, which, by the way, in the U.S. affected 60 million people sick, over 12,000 people passed away, over close to 275,000 people were hospitalized, and we made it. And so I'm actually glad, although I think it's, for some folks it's very, very inconvenient. There are folks who are struggling with, keeping their jobs. But doing the things that we're doing, my hopeful expectation is that we will have far better results domestically as well as globally than we had back in April 2009. But I do think, folks, as you're looking at this graph, looking at darn near 20 years, this is not something, unfortunately, this is not something new that we've experienced, and we're still here, we're doing well, and the stock market moves on. So I think perspective is extremely important, not to minimize what's going on, but also to keep it in a balanced point of view is crucial.
Keep a big picture.
Keep a big picture in that point of view and perspective.
And I want to talk a little bit quickly about diversification.
You bet.
A lot of people want to panic. A lot of people want to just sit still. What do we need to do?
Yeah, usually when stuff like this happens, Jess, people have one of three major reactions. One, panic and sell. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. Two, I don't want to do anything. Or three, and I've had folks calling me, it's like, hey, this is a good time to buy, name this company. One of the things that we're going to show up on the screen a number of years ago, I've forgotten how many years ago, we actually built this model for what we think is more 21st century diversification, proper diversification. If you actually, folks, as you're watching, if you look at that world number one, that's the traditional world, Jess, where things go up and down, and our hopeful expectation is, in exchange for taking on risk, we want to grow more. Well, all of us, I believe, have money in that universe. If you look at world number two, that's really where banks and credit unions and fixed rate money live. Well, you know what? It's not going to pay you much. And certainly over the last decade, it hasn't done much at all. But there's a place for it. That third world is where you have investments that go up when the market goes up. They just don't lose when the market loses. Now, the good news is, during times like this, boy, people feel safe and protected. The downside is, when times are good, they don't get it all. And then there are also investments that really don't correlate to the market. They do have risk, but they pay, for example, stable payments, stable dividends, those types of things, and their principal does not go up and down. Our belief is very simple. You should diversify among all of those worlds, not just within, and we do it, but also within a world, but among the worlds. And as we look across the nation, we help about 700 families now in about 20 plus states. We've been having some conversations more proactively, and we've been hearing from our folks to say, you know what, I wish I'd made more in this or done more in that, but it's nice to know that we're able to weather the storm. And that's really the key, is making sure that through good times and tough times, you have a diversification that covers all of these areas, and then you keep a perspective rather than when times are good, we go crazy, and then when times are bad, we panic. And up on the screen, as I was doing some research, most people go, I'm not sure I know what that is. That's Mexico Beach, when Hurricane Michael blew through. And that's a house that actually the owners built it, I believe, to withstand between 150 mile and 180 mile an hour winds. If you're going to live on the beach where hurricanes come through, you got to build the house different. And our advocacy, and we talk about my book, Building a Better Retirement, we think it's important for folks to build a better house rather than I'm going to do the same thing and then just hope that hurricanes don't blow through, because we know that they do. And so we encourage folks to have a good perspective, look at the diversification, have conversations. We're more than happy to sit down with folks, have a good discussion, and see if you should do nothing, or if there are some steps that you can take during this time to improve your situation. Just depends on what's in your best interest.
And real quickly, we're running out of time, but I want to talk about this. I want to talk about how this is affecting retirement. We hear that people are saying, I cannot retire now because of the coronavirus.
Jess, I'm talking with a couple of people right now who have told me flat out, they said, I don't think I can retire this year. Everything was moving. And within the last 30 days, they made that decision.
Yes.
And so, folks, that's why this is so critical, is because we didn't see in the last 30 days this global pandemic just completely caught us off guard. And so that's why we believe that this type of modeling is critical, so that when you're getting ready to retire, it's not going to be contingent upon whether a global virus breaks out or some event that we had no control over. So that's why we encourage folks to have a conversation, and even if you are nearing retirement, we encourage you, let's have a discussion. If we can do something to help, it'd be our privilege. If doing nothing is the best strategy, we'll encourage you to do that as well and wait some things out.
And it's never too late to start, especially even in this current situation. For anything, it's always best to just ask your questions and get your questions answered.
That's exactly right.
Morgan's the person to do that. You can give them a call. As he said, they are still open. Of course, always taking those phone conversations as well. All right, we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks,
Everybody
Jess.
stay well.